you might want to take a closer look at what's sitting inside your fridge. Because believe it or not, that quiet hum you hear every day might be slowly affecting your health, one food at a time. I know it sounds hard to believe, but stay with me. There are 9 everyday foods that don't respond well to cold. In fact, storing them in the fridge could be doing more harm than good, especially for older adults. And here's the thing. Most people over 60 are still keeping these foods cold, not realizing it could be quietly impacting their digestion, their heart, and even their memory. Now, this isn't just about taste or how things feel on your plate. We're talking about real chemical changes, nutrients getting lost, and bacteria, the kind you can't see, starting to grow. Some health experts believe our love for refrigeration might be linked to the rise in chronic health issues we see today. But the good news is, you're not stuck with this. Today, we're walking through these 9 foods together, and I'll show you simple ways to store them properly so you and your loved ones get the full nutritional benefit. Now, pay close attention to number 2 on this list. It might be something you have in your fridge right now, and once you hear the facts, it might change the way you store it, for good. Everything we share is backed by published research. No hype, no fluff. You'll find links to the full studies in the video description below. Before we jump in, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from? How old are you? And have you ever noticed your food tasting different after storing it in the fridge? Leave us a comment. We read every single one, and we'll respond with tips tailored just for you. And if you find this kind of honest, practical information helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Now, grab a pen or just sit back and listen. Let's get started. Number 9, potatoes. Now, this might surprise you. When you store potatoes in the refrigerator, you're not just keeping them cold, you're actually creating a toxic compound. I'm not exaggerating. Cold temperatures cause the starch in potatoes to turn into sugar. It's called cold-induced sweetening. But here's the real concern. When you cook those sweetened potatoes, especially at high heat, those sugars combine with amino acids to form acrylamide. And that's a chemical the International Agency for Research on Cancer labels a probable human carcinogen. One study out of the University of Idaho found something alarming. Potatoes kept in the fridge for just 2 weeks showed a 300% increase in sugar. They tested over 500 samples, and the results were the same across every variety. The cold also changes the texture. It breaks down the cells, leaving your potatoes gritty and oddly sweet. Ever wonder why your mashed potatoes taste a little strange sometimes? Now you know. The truth is, the refrigerator is damaging them at a cellular level. So, what should you do instead? Keep your potatoes in a cool, dark place, ideally around 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That could be a pantry, a cellar, or even a cardboard box tucked away in a closet. And don't forget, light is just as harmful. It causes potatoes to produce solanine, that green stuff on the skin. And yes, that's toxic too. Use a paper bag or a breathable basket. Avoid plastic at all costs. It traps moisture and leads to rot. Here's a little known tip. Keep potatoes away from onions. Both give off natural gases that make each other spoil faster. Keep them at least 3 feet apart. Stored properly, potatoes can stay fresh for up to 3 months. But if you put them in the fridge, you'll be tossing them in the trash in just 2 weeks. Number 8, bread. Now, this one surprises almost everyone. Believe it or not, your refrigerator is actually making your bread go stale faster. It sounds backwards, doesn't it? But the science is clear. Cold temperatures speed up a process called starch retrogradation. That's just a fancy way of saying the starch molecules start to crystallize and push out the moisture. Researchers at the Institute of Food Technologists found that bread stored in the fridge goes stale 6 times faster than bread kept at room temperature. 6 times. They tested it by measuring how firm the crumbs became over time. Refrigerated bread turned hard and crumbly in just 3 days. But bread left out at room temperature? It stayed soft and fresh for a whole week. And that's not all. The cold also breaks down the natural flavor compounds, the ones that give fresh bread that warm, inviting smell. So if your toast has been tasting like cardboard lately, it's not your imagination. The best way to store bread? Use a bread box or a paper bag at room temperature. It should allow just enough airflow to prevent mold while keeping the right amount of moisture inside to stay soft. Now, if you don't think you'll finish the loaf within a week, here's what to do. Slice it first, then freeze it. Freezing works better than refrigeration because it's fast. So fast, in fact, that ice crystals don't have time to damage the bread's structure. When you're ready for a slice, just take it straight from the freezer to the toaster. No need to thaw. In fact, thawing first can lead to moisture issues, and nobody wants soggy toast. Handled this way, frozen bread can taste almost as good as the day you bought it. Number 7, honey. Honey might just be nature's most perfect food. It never goes bad. In fact, archaeologists found jars of honey in Egyptian tombs over 3,000 years old, and they were still edible. But here's the thing. Put that same honey in your refrigerator and you could ruin it in just a few weeks. Cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize quickly. Now, this isn't dangerous, but it changes everything. That smooth, golden liquid turns into a hard, grainy mess that won't dissolve the way it should. Even worse, refrigeration introduces moisture. Every time you open that cold jar, condensation forms inside. And moisture? That's honey's biggest enemy. A study by the National Honey Board found that honey stored below 50 degrees Fahrenheit loses up to 35% of its antimicrobial properties. Those are the natural compounds that make honey such a powerful healer. The same ones ancient civilizations used to treat wounds. So yes, your fridge is quietly stripping honey of its strength. And it's not just the benefits you're losing. The taste changes too. Honey contains over 180 different compounds that create its rich, layered flavor. Cold storage breaks those down unevenly. So even high-quality raw honey starts tasting like cheap sugar syrup. The best way to store honey? Keep it at room temperature, sealed tightly in a clean jar. Somewhere between 64 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. And make sure to keep it out of direct sunlight. That can weaken its quality over time. Now, if your honey does crystallize, don't toss it. Just place the jar in warm water and stir gently. It'll return to liquid form without losing its benefits. Here's something most people don't know. The darker the honey, the more antioxidants it holds. But those antioxidants are especially sensitive to cold. So when you refrigerate dark honey, you lose even more of what makes it so powerful. Number 6, coffee. Coffee lovers, brace yourselves. That pricey bag of beans sitting in your fridge, you might be ruining it without even knowing. The truth is, your refrigerator is coffee's worst enemy. Here's why. Coffee beans are incredibly porous, like tiny sponges. They absorb odors and flavors from everything around them. So that leftover Chinese food, that wedge of blue cheese, or last night's spaghetti, your coffee is soaking it all up. That's why your morning cup sometimes tastes off. But it doesn't stop there. The constant temperature changes inside your fridge create condensation. That moisture clings to the beans. It speeds up aging and can even lead to mold. A study by the Specialty Coffee Association found that refrigerated beans lose up to 60% of their aroma in just 1 week. Why? Because the flavorful oils in those beans solidify in the cold. And when you grind cold beans, those oils don't extract properly. The result? A weak, flat cup that tastes nothing like it should. So how should you store coffee? Keep it in a sealed, airtight container at room temperature and make sure it's opaque. Light damages coffee too. The sweet spot is between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And don't stock up too much. Buy in small amounts, just enough to use within 2 weeks. Once you open the bag, the clock is ticking. Oxygen is coffee's second enemy. Vacuum-sealed containers help, but honestly, buying fresh and using it quickly is even better. Now, if you really must store coffee long-term, the freezer is the better option. But here's the catch. Freeze it only once. Divide it into weekly portions, seal them tight, and take out only what you need. Never refreeze. That repeated freeze-thaw cycle ruins the beans for good. Number 5, garlic. Garlic in the refrigerator is a disaster waiting to happen. And for older adults who rely on garlic for its health benefits, this really matters. When you store garlic in the fridge, it starts to sprout. Those green shoots aren't just unappetizing. They're bitter, and they can upset your stomach. But that's not the worst part. The cool, damp environment inside your fridge can cause mold to grow on garlic. And some of those molds produce mycotoxins. harmful compounds you don't want anywhere near your food. Researchers at UC Davis discovered that garlic stored cold loses up to 50% of its allicin within 10 days. Allicin is the powerhouse behind garlic's healing qualities. It's what makes garlic antibacterial, antiviral, and heart-friendly. So by refrigerating garlic, you're throwing away half its health benefits. And it's not just the nutrients, the texture takes a hit too. Cold breaks down garlic's structure, leaving it mushy and hard to work with. Ever tried mincing cold garlic? It turns into a sticky paste that clings to your knife and ruins your recipe. The better option? Store garlic in a cool, dry spot with plenty of airflow. A mesh bag or basket works great. Ideal temperature? Somewhere around 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And never use plastic or sealed containers. Garlic needs to breathe. Keep it away from sunlight, which can make it bitter. And don't store it near the stove. Heat and humidity will make it sprout faster. With the right storage, a whole head of garlic can last up to 6 months. But once you break it apart, aim to use the cloves within 10 days. Here's a tip that'll elevate your cooking. Garlic kept at room temperature releases more flavor. Those essential oils stay fluid, not frozen, and your meals will taste noticeably better because of it. Number 4, bananas. Bananas and refrigerators? They're a match made in disaster. Put a banana in the fridge and you'll watch it turn into a black, mushy mess. But it's not just about how it looks. What's happening goes much deeper. Cold temperatures cause something scientists call chilling injury. Bananas are tropical fruits. They've never known cold in their natural environment. So when you put them in the fridge, their cells literally start to fall apart. The membranes rupture. Enzymes leak out, and the fruit begins breaking down from the inside out. A study from the Queensland Department of Agriculture found that bananas stored below 56 degrees Fahrenheit lose 80% of their vitamin C in just 5 days. Even worse, they stop producing new nutrients altogether. Bananas normally continue developing beneficial compounds as they ripen, but the fridge puts that process on pause. And that black skin you see? It's not just unappetizing. It's a sign that the fruit's natural defenses have failed. Those brown spots are areas where the tissue has died, and dead tissue can harbor bacteria and mold, even if it's not visible yet. So what's the right way to store bananas? Keep them at room temperature, ideally between 56 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Hang them on a banana hook to avoid bruising. Here's something the supermarkets don't advertise. You can actually control how fast your bananas ripen. To speed up ripening, place them in a paper bag with an apple. To slow it down, separate the bunch and wrap each stem with plastic wrap. That reduces the release of ethylene gas, the chemical responsible for ripening, by up to 40%. Now, once your bananas are perfectly ripe, it's okay to refrigerate them, but only for a day or two. Yes, the peel will turn black, but the inside will still be fine. An even better idea? Peel them and freeze them. Not only does it preserve the fruit, frozen bananas actually make better smoothies. They blend into a creamy texture without the need for ice. Number 3, onions. Storing onions in the refrigerator might be one of the biggest kitchen mistakes people make. And the damage? It happens fast, and it can't be undone. Here's what's going on behind that fridge door. The humidity in your refrigerator is usually around 95%. But onions only need about 65% or less. That extra moisture seeps through their thin, papery layers, creating the perfect breeding ground for mold. And not just any mold. Black mold on onions produces aflatoxins, some of the most cancer-causing substances known in food science. But mold isn't even the first problem. Before you ever see a black spot, the cold begins to convert the onion's starches into sugar. A study from Texas University found that refrigerated onions showed a 270% increase in sugar after just 2 weeks. That much sugar completely changes their flavor and how they cook. So instead of rich, savory flavor, your French onion soup could end up tasting more like dessert. And there's more. The cold also causes ice crystals to form inside the onion, breaking apart its cells. That's why refrigerated onions turn soft, mushy, and lose their natural snap. And once the cells are ruptured, the onion can't caramelize the way it's supposed to. So those beautiful golden brown onions you see in restaurants? Impossible, if they've been stored in the fridge. So, how should you store them? Keep whole onions in a cool, dry, well-ventilated space. A pantry or basement cellar works perfectly. Aim for a temperature between 45 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and don't seal them up. They need to breathe. Use a mesh bag, a wire basket, or even a pair of old pantyhose. Also, and this is important, keep onions away from potatoes. Both release natural gases that cause the other to spoil faster, and keep them out of direct sunlight, which can cause sprouting. Now, once you cut an onion, that's a different story. Cut onions should go in the fridge, sealed tightly in an airtight container, and used within 7 days. The exposed surface is vulnerable to bacteria, so refrigeration is necessary after cutting. But whole onions? Never in the fridge. Number 2, tomatoes. And this one might shock you the most, because when it comes to storing tomatoes, what most people do, especially with good intentions, may be doing more harm than they realize. Here's the truth. Refrigerating tomatoes doesn't just affect their texture and flavor. It actually changes them at the genetic level. A team of researchers at the University of Florida made a groundbreaking discovery. They found that when tomatoes are stored below 54 degrees Fahrenheit, it shuts down the genes responsible for producing flavor compounds. And once those genes are turned off, they don't come back. Even if you take the tomato out of the fridge and let it warm up again, the damage is permanent. They studied over 25,000 tomato genes. Hundreds were affected. So what you're left with is a tomato in name only. On the inside, it's become a watery red balloon with almost no flavor and little nutritional value. That's especially concerning for seniors, because tomatoes are one of the richest sources of lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that helps protect the heart and may even lower cancer risk. But refrigeration reduces lycopene by up to 65%. And it gets worse. Lycopene needs help from certain enzymes to be absorbed by your body, and cold temperatures destroy those enzymes completely, which means even the little that's left, your body can't use it. The structural damage is just as serious. Under a microscope, ice crystals form inside the fruit, puncturing the cells and shredding the flesh from within. That's why cold tomatoes feel mealy, grainy, and bland. So what's the right way to store them? Keep your tomatoes at room temperature, stem side down. That helps seal out moisture through the scar where the stem was and keeps bacteria from getting in. Aim for a temperature between 55 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Avoid direct sunlight, but don't hide them away in a dark cabinet either. Tomatoes actually do best in indirect light. It helps maintain their nutrients. And never store them in plastic bags. Tomatoes release ethylene gas, which needs to escape. If trapped, that gas speeds up rotting. A single spoiled tomato in a plastic bag can ruin the whole batch in under 24 hours. So if you've got more ripe tomatoes than you can use in a few days, here's a smart solution. Make sauce and freeze it. Cooked tomatoes actually contain more absorbable lycopene than raw ones, and freezing preserves it beautifully. Number 1, avocados. We've saved the most important and the most shocking for last. What happens to avocados in the refrigerator? Honestly, it should be considered a crime against food. The damage is that severe, so complete that everything else we've covered almost seems minor in comparison. You see, avocados are packed with over 20 essential nutrients. They're one of the only fruits that offer healthy fats, especially oleic acid, which is vital for brain health in older adults. But here's the problem. Refrigeration destroys those healthy fats through a process called lipid peroxidation. That's just a scientific way of saying the fats start to oxidize too quickly, creating harmful free radicals instead of helpful nutrients. Stanford University researchers discovered something stunning. Refrigerated avocados lose up to 90% of their antioxidant power in just 4 days. That includes key antioxidants like vitamin E and vitamin C, both crucial for aging bodies. These nutrients help fight inflammation, support eye health, and even help your body absorb other nutrients more efficiently. But it gets worse. Cold temperatures also trigger an enzyme that actually breaks the fruit down from the inside. It's the same enzyme that causes browning. But in the fridge, it works overtime. It starts breaking down cell walls and turning beneficial compounds into bitter, even harmful substances. The texture suffers badly. What should be smooth and creamy turns stringy, watery, and oily. The fats separate from the fiber, and suddenly your guacamole becomes a gloppy mess before it even hits the bowl. So how do you store avocados the right way? Keep unripe avocados at room temperature, between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Place them in a bowl on your counter, not in a sealed bag. They need airflow to ripen properly. If you want to ripen them faster, put them in a paper bag with a banana. The ethylene gas from the banana speeds up the process, sometimes cutting ripening time in half. Now, once the avocado is ripe, you can refrigerate it for 2 to 3 days at most. But even then, you'll notice some loss in quality. A better option? Buy your avocados at different stages of ripeness. That way, you always have a perfectly ripe one on hand. And if you only use half, keep the pit in the unused half. Brush the exposed part with a little lemon juice, and store it in an airtight container with a slice of onion. The sulfur compounds in the onion help prevent browning. And don't worry, it won't change the flavor. Stored this way, your cut avocado can stay fresh for up to 2 days at room temperature. The difference between a properly stored avocado and a refrigerated one is like night and day. When stored right, you keep the creamy texture, the brain-boosting fats, and all those age-fighting nutrients intact. Your body, especially at this stage of life, deserves that. Number 1. Avocados. We've saved the most important and the most shocking for last. What happens to avocados in the refrigerator? Honestly, it should be considered a crime against food. The damage is that severe, so complete that everything else we've covered almost seems minor in comparison. You see, avocados are packed with over 20 essential nutrients. They're one of the only fruits that offer healthy fats, especially oleic acid, which is vital for brain health in older adults. But here's the problem. Refrigeration destroys those healthy fats through a process called lipid peroxidation. That's just a scientific way of saying the fats start to oxidize too quickly, creating harmful free radicals instead of helpful nutrients. Stanford University researchers discovered something stunning. Refrigerated avocados lose up to 90% of their antioxidant power in just 4 days. That includes key antioxidants like vitamin E and vitamin C, both crucial for aging bodies. These nutrients help fight inflammation, support eye health, and even help your body absorb other nutrients more efficiently. But it gets worse. Cold temperatures also trigger an enzyme that actually breaks the fruit down from the inside. It's the same enzyme that causes browning, but in the fridge, it works overtime. It starts breaking down cell walls and turning beneficial compounds into bitter, even harmful substances. The texture suffers badly. What should be smooth and creamy turns stringy, watery, and oily. The fats separate from the fiber, and suddenly your guacamole becomes a gloppy mess before it even hits the bowl. So how do you store avocados the right way? Keep unripe avocados at room temperature, between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Place them in a bowl on your counter, not in a sealed bag. They need airflow to ripen properly. If you want to ripen them faster, put them in a paper bag with a banana. The ethylene gas from the banana speeds up the process, sometimes cutting ripening time in half. Now, once the avocado is ripe, you can refrigerate it for 2 to 3 days at most. But even then, you'll notice some loss in quality. A better option? Buy your avocados at different stages of ripeness. That way, you always have a perfectly ripe one on hand. And if you only use half, keep the pit in the unused half. Brush the exposed part with a little lemon juice and store it in an airtight container with a slice of onion. The sulfur compounds in the onion help prevent browning, and don't worry, it won't change the flavor. Stored this way, your cut avocado can stay fresh for up to 2 days at room temperature. The difference between a properly stored avocado and a refrigerated one is like night and day. When stored right, you keep the creamy texture, the brain-boosting fats, and all those age-fighting nutrients intact. Your body, especially at this stage of life, deserves that. And that brings us to the end. The truth is, we've been refrigerating the wrong foods for far too long. These 9 items represent thousands of dollars in wasted groceries. And even more important, lost nutrition and missed chances at better health. Every single nutrient matters, especially as we age. When you're fighting inflammation, protecting your memory, and trying to stay strong and independent, you need every bit of support you can get. Don't let your refrigerator quietly undo your efforts. Store your food wisely and reclaim the health benefits that were always meant to be yours. Your body deserves nothing less than the best. And now you know exactly how to give it that. Before you go, we'd love to hear from you. Which of these foods surprised you the most? Have you been refrigerating something for years, not knowing the damage? Share your story in the comments below. We read every single one, and we truly love hearing from you. Thanks so much for watching.